interpretation this time. No pleasant surprises. No flashy special effects. No fucking cohesive storytelling. Damn it. Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. Welcome back to...
The Summer of Hellraiser!
Well, made it all the way to Deader. Guess what? This was also not originally a Hellraiser movie. Fuck! So that's 3 Hellraiser movies in a row that were originally completely unrelated horror scripts, only to have Pinhead and the Cenobites shoehorned in at a later date as a means to keep the series relevant. Because after all, horror movies are all the same, right? Take Friday the 13th and replace Jason with Pinhead or Chucky or the Pred Alien, and it'll all be just the same, right? That's the best I can come up with when asking what the fuck Miramax was thinking, and I have to say that I certainly am not holding out much hope for a decent installment in the series going forward, as the filmmakers themselves don't seem to give a shit about exhibiting even basic respect for the genre. With that in mind, we go to the 7th movie in the franchise, Hellraiser Deader, which just so happens to be psychological horror. Brilliant. Well, it is a little different, as this time around they take a few cues from Lovecraft as well. Deader stars Carrie Vetter as Amy Klein, super reporter from New York, and as she is the only American in this tale, obviously the only hope the world has in unraveling the supernatural mystery of an underground group called the Deaders. Because as we learned in Hellraiser 3, a proper police investigation pales in comparison to the efforts of even the worst reporter in the city. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at Hellraiser Deader and see if they fucked up as bad as the last few times. We open to tile flooring. Right. I guess the Lament configuration was a little too Hellraiser-ish, but they switched settings fast enough to a crack house with all those nasty drugs that destroy lives. Like alcohol, heroin, and weed? I swear I'm not a pothead, but smoking weed in a crack house is like eating salad at a buffet. This immediately introduces us to our lead character, Amy Klein, whom partakes in her own legal, and therefore perfectly fine character trait drug of choice. She then pulls out a big, obvious camera to snap a few photos. I don't know if that was supposed to be secret. I mean, not only is that thing really hard to miss, but the first girl she took a photo of looked directly at her while the photo was shot, so... what? It's not really important anyway. Simply here to establish one of many character traits in this quick-fire fleshing out of who Amy Klein is. She's a reporter in London who takes tons of drugs, but the legal kind, so it's okay. And she is extra special considering where she hails from.
You know, it's exactly that lack of respect for authority that got you fired from the New York Post.
Maybe that has more to do with the fact that people in the US don't need advice on how to be a crack whore. This is her boss, Charles Raymond, played by Simon Kunz. Amy thinks that Charles called her into his office about her latest story, but the man actually has a videotape to show her.
Watch the tape.
Come on. Shake your body. Come on. Shake your body.
Did you call the police on this?
Oh, sorry, my bad, wrong tape. This incredibly well-edited found footage of the Deaders depicts a young woman undergoing a dark ritual.
My skin isn't real. My eyes aren't real.
My boobs are not real. My hair color is not real. Though, I think the salon did a pretty good job on it, all things considered. The ritual, being led by Winter, played by Paul Reese, requires the woman to play the kinkiest game of Russian roulette ever caught on tape. You're supposed to spin it first, you know. Can we go back to the Blue Thorn gay stripper moment? This necrophilic makeout session results in the revival of the young woman. So she's not dead, but she's still not alive. Not quite undead, though. She's just deader. And there you have the title. So after seeing this footage, Charles sends Amy on assignment to Bucharest, Romania. Somehow he thinks she'll need American currency over there, but whatever. Point is, we get our travel montage. Wait, she's back in the... No, she's almost... Wait, back in the room again. This is one of the most schizophrenic travel montages I've ever seen. Bucharest looks an awful lot like Trenton, New Jersey. At any rate, though, Amy goes to the apartment written in the return address of the envelope the tape arrived in, giving the landlord an insultingly cheap bribe. Seriously, what can 20 bucks get you in Bucharest? A pizza? Amy buys herself 5 minutes inside the apartment. Here we find the horror of bad housekeeping. Seriously, just look at the corpse. She isn't nearly decayed enough to account for the state of the apartment. It would have to have been mostly fucked up before she died. Because it would be a lead on her story, or maybe just because it looks like it might be valuable, Amy swipes the second envelope from the bathroom along with the lament configuration. However, unbeknownst to Miss Klein, this bathroom comes with one hell of a security system. The scrubbing bubble Cenobites ain't got shit on the George Romero security system of the dead. This is enough to convince Amy to GTFO, but she stops to thank the landlord on the way out. Wonder why she didn't try that to get in. Amy returns to her hotel room with alcohol, cigarettes, and a new videotape, plus a free, obviously important key for later as a bonus prize. Never mind that now, though. Back to the investigation. I thought I recognized the plot for this movie from somewhere. The tape contains a message from Marley, played by Georgina Relance, that being that the debtor's leader, Winter, has control of the people he brings back to life. Marla asks Amy to help save everyone, a pretty impressive thing considering the two have never actually met. The New York reporter with the muddled accent, who happened to be in London where you just so happen to send the tape, is supposed to save you all. That was a pretty big gamble, all things considered. But above all, don't open the box. Never open the box.
Don't open the box. He needs for you to open the box, but don't.
Marla can rest assured because Amy Klein is on the job. So it's time to go out and... You stupid bitch! And why the hell does the lament configuration become easier to solve in every installment? She barely touched the damn thing! Amy is subjected to the worst horror that the puzzle box has unleashed thus far. Poor CGI chains that proceed to force her to give fellatio to the configuration.
Don't think for a moment you are not in danger.
Why the hell would that even cross her mind? Unfortunately, Pinhead isn't going to drag Amy off to the Cenobite realm for lots and lots of kinky torture sex, because all this is just a hallucination. Like we didn't get enough of that in the last two films. Amy follows the instructions from the tape to track down and speak with a man named Joey, played by Mark Warren. Due to the copious amount of titties and dick involved in this scene, I'll have to give the Cliff Notes version. He tells her to steer clear of Winter and the Deaders, but Amy is adamant in her pursuit of the truth. No, that really is mostly all that happens in the scene. The rest is just boobs. Lots and lots of boobs. No bother, after this she runs right into Winter anyway. He, however, runs right into... Wow, Thomas the Tank Engine is kind of a dick in person. The police are called, but Winter's corpse has mysteriously vanished. While explaining her story, she spots the man in a considerably less splattered state about to board the train the old-fashioned way, walking inside, not trying to jump in through the front window. She tries to capture the living dead passenger, but the police think something else is going on. Favorite character right there. They intend to throw her into the asylum. No, not that one, although these movies are definitely getting there. But that would make this movie far too short, so Charles shows up out of nowhere to dig her out of this mess so he can throw her back into the even bigger mess involving the undead Jonestown Society.
For the average person, the hunger for knowledge is like the hunger for food. We want to know just enough to take the edge off our appetite. You can't help overeating.
I don't hear you complaining.
No, that's the point. So I send you in to do the eating for me so I get to experience it without actually suffering any mental indigestion.
I think I figured out the problem with this movie. It's trying so hard to be a Lovecraft film that the Hellraiser aspects are actually cutting into that and making it less frightening. Going where Joey told her during the tit party, Amy finds a door. But it's locked! Oh no, if only she had some kind of key! If it's funny, I thought that would have felt slightly more significant. Amy's venture into the subterranean labyrinth is full of the greatest horrors in all of Bucharest, including getting mud on her shoes, encountering bad CGI bugs, and worst of all, being trapped inside a narrow space that she could easily back out of. So now that she's conveniently trapped herself, Amy can get knifed by Ghostface's Romanian counterpart, Fantoma Fata. Fuck. No, not again! This fake-out at least serves a purpose, allowing Amy to be led by a Deader member to where Winter is performing another corpse make-out scene. Because necromancy means never having to say goodbye. At least not for very long. Why do I find that strangely similar to the pull tab on a battery? Winter takes Amy to his office, where he reveals himself to be a descendant of Le Marchand, which is perplexing considering Philippe Le Marchand only had one child who fled to America. So it's possible, but very unlikely. But what do you expect from Hellraiser tropes shoehorned in at the last second? Winter tells Amy that she was chosen by him to come down and assist his legion of extraordinary necrophiliacs. She, on the other hand, insists the Deaders contacted her to get them away from Winter, to which he interjects.
Don't think for 1 second that you are not in danger.
Are extremely dangerous men really this concerned that people aren't going to recognize the hazard of their personal safety? Winter then teleports Amy to the mattress where the sexy zombie makeouts have all taken place. And no, that isn't a euphemism. There's zero transition or explanation given. Amy is suddenly sprawled on her back with Winter on top of her, getting ready to plunge a knife into her. So his power set includes necromancy and teleportation. Those are some pretty high-level spells. Hey, wait a minute. He just resurrected somebody today! How many spells per day does this bastard have? Fucking OP builds. The situation isn't so pretty, as Winter and the Deaders are leading Amy on to kill herself. Much like all the Deaders before her, the tension builds to a peak, and promptly fizzles like a flat soda. Despite evidence that she, in fact, did just experience all that, the mirror looks okay, so no problem. Amy heads off to bed, where she... fucking figures you try to help somebody out and they stab you in the back. This results in a scene that I'm not certain if it's supposed to be horrifying or wacky hijinks. She spends several frustrating minutes of the movie trying to remove the knife with mixed results. I do not envy the hotel staff that gets stuck trying to clean up Amy's mess. And it's not like she tips well. After the knife is finally removed, Pinhead gets shoehorned back into the film so that he can provide Amy and the audience with some much-needed exposition at this point. Seems Winter is a descendant of the toy maker who crafted the lament configuration, but cannot solve it himself, despite still being able to use its power in ways that have never worked in any other Hellraiser movie up to this point. Winter created the Deaders in the hope of finding a person who could solve the puzzle for him so he can conquer the Cenobite realm and rule it himself, because that's how it works. Naturally, Pinhead isn't wild about this idea and wants to use Amy to stop all of this. Despite Amy's protests, Pinhead insists that her soul belongs to him and that he is the only one who can save her.
I am the way.
The only alternative for you is Google Maps. After cleaning herself up, but not the mess she made, Amy bandages herself as best she can, then goes out to find Joey once more. Which leads to one of the biggest fuck yous in cinema. Everyone on the train suddenly dies! Furthermore, the entire train is filled with mannequins, corpses, and the oddball Cenobite. Because we still have time to cram a little more Hellraiser imagery into this film. This does put a whole new grotesque spin on that tit party earlier. Marla shows up to give Amy some irritatingly cryptic advice, which in turn triggers some more schizophrenic flashbacks for Amy. Just when you think it's all starting to culminate into something, the Hellraiser sequels pull another fuck you. This time, for the audience. Amy is evidently not so crazy that she can't be allowed to leave her room and walk around. We have some pointless psychological horror imagery where a creepy child draws a zombie painting of her. I'd be less freaked out personally, and more impressed that a kid so young can draw that well, and no matter how she made me look. Fleeing from the token creepy child, Amy finds Marla in the asylum. This does not cause her to think for a second that just maybe both of them are batshit insane. Instead, they discuss Amy's predicament over cartoon reruns. This consists of Marla telling Amy a bunch of shit we already know.
Looks like you're running out of time.
Wait, so was that real or not? Do I have to feel emotionally connected still? Everyone in the asylum vanishes, and believe me, I wish it was that easy. And we at least see the schizophrenic flashbacks and learn their meaning. Suffice it to say, Amy murdered her father with a kitchen knife because he was behaving inappropriately, I think. The movie isn't very clear on the specifics. What the damn it! Yes, the last 25 minutes or so of film we just saw have been rendered completely pointless. Everything Amy experienced after waking in her hotel room never happened, as she is still about to die at the hands of Winter. Or at her own hands, because that's how deaders work, because, well, they never did get around to explaining that part. On her backswing, she spots the lament configuration, and figures that throwing the damn thing is just as good as solving it. And indeed, it works! Oh, yes, thank you. I have never been so happy to see a guy with this many piercings before. Pinhead reads Winter the riot act over how utterly fucking stupid his whole plan was, then makes a big show of tearing him apart, using the trademark Hellraiser chains. That is the one part of the Hellraiser franchise that they unnaturally crammed into this movie that I actually like. With Winter dead, Pinhead turns his attention to the remaining deaders. Well, I guess with Winter gone, Pinhead will be dragging them all into the Cenobite realm for kinky torture games for the rest of What? Why? Why the hell would they kill people when they have made it abundantly clear in the last movies that Pinhead and the Cenobites really prefer torturing people? Slowly, like, for eternity. Amy is the last woman standing, but seeing as she now has to answer to the Cenobite King personally, decides that taking a knife to the chest really is the better option after all. How does that work? Is there anything that won't solve the fucking puzzle at this point? The movie ends with Charles watching a news report about the explosion at Deader HQ and wondering with his secretary about the possibility that Amy survived. No time to dwell, though. His 3 o'clock appointment has arrived.
I want to show you a tape that I just received. Now, I think it's a story you might be able to wrap your head around.
I bet I can get this woman killed, too. Well, that was Hellraiser Deader, and the fuck was that? Deader is not really much different than the last 2 films in the series, and that isn't a point in its favor. Psychological horror is interesting in and of itself, but what we've seen employed in the Hellraiser series are quite possibly the worst aspects of it. Take, for instance, the fake-out, or anticlimax. Granted, this film didn't do it nearly as bad as Hellseeker, but it still brought the tension up to an extreme point only to snap its fingers and leave the audience wondering what's really going on. After the 4th or 5th time, you simply stop caring, even when it does look substantial. Furthermore, just because something is supernatural, that does not mean that any supernatural script will work just as well. Strange things happen with little explanation, but they lack what intrinsically made Hellraiser Hellraiser. The Cenobites in this film aren't unique, interesting, or even necessary. They're hardly noticeable as it is. The biggest crime is that this movie just kinda gives up at the end. The 3rd act was entirely rewritten to become a Hellraiser movie, yet still the resolution didn't make a lick of sense within the Hellraiser mythos, or even with its own set of rules. Hell, there hardly were any, but shit still didn't add up. Though I must praise the lead actor's performances. Carrie Vera made a strong, attractive, and not overly sexualized female lead, and Simon Coombs was very entertaining as Charles. I kind of wish he was in there more, though I must admit it's kinda hard to find a good excuse to have her editor follow her around through the depths of Romania. Overall, Hellraiser Deader is just another mediocre psychological horror film which may have had potential before the Hellraiser aspects were forced into the script, but as it stands, I find it slightly more entertaining than Hellseeker, yet still only worth 2 crap CGI chains out of 5. Though it is so close, I know damn well it comes down entirely to personal preference there. Well, that is kind of why I like the 1 to 5 star rating, even if it does get repetitive when you're knee-deep in this. Thank you all for watching. I've been Shado, and remember, be sure to check the exchange rates before attempting your insultingly small bribes.
You could call it My Psychotic Episode, or Psychotic Episode 1.